All right. Well, fantastic. Today on That's Classic, we have someone that I have to say I've wanted to interview. I say this many times on this show, but I really have. I've wanted to interview for a while, and I'm really looking forward to it. So today we have none other than the star of the Blue Lagoon. He also was on Dallas. He has been in numerous movies, and so I'd like to welcome Christopher Atkins. So, Chris, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, really appreciate it. So I'll tell you what, to start right away, why don't I just ask, did you and Brooke Shields, when did you first meet before Blue Lagoon?
We met on the island. I didn't meet her before Blue Lagoon. So we met. I was on the island 2 weeks before she showed up. So I met her then.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, what
I was the last audition I did for the movie was with an actress named Julie Warner, who was in Doc Hollywood with Michael J. Fox.
yes.
And she would have gotten the part, I think, if Brooke had said no. So I had done that interview with her in New York, and then Brooke I didn't see until, like I said, until I got on the island, or when she got on the island.
Did you even know that she was like, a contender for this?
Well, I see. That's interesting because I didn't really know who Brooke Shields was. I just knew of her in the sense that I remember that she was a Scavulo model, and I
Mhm.
was modeling at Ford Modeling Agency back then. And the Ford Modeling Agency actually started the children's division at Ford on Brooke Shields or with Brooke Shields, which
Oh,
was
wow.
pretty interesting. But I didn't really know that or know of all of that stuff. I don't think going on, but I just knew of her because of the Scavulo thing. And I remember she was 12 years old, and the big deal was a 12-year-old being made up to look like a young adult or a teenager. And is this
Yeah.
a bad thing to do to a kid? That's what I remember about Brooke.
Wow. So this is interesting. I have to admit, because I had done a fair amount of research on you and different things. You were there for 2 weeks on that island. First of all, I want to say this. Every young guy at that time was so flippin' envious of you in the first place. I mean, what young guy doesn't want to be like, in their fantasy, like trapped on a remote island and you can do all these like tree huts and fish and all that stuff. What were you doing then for those 2 weeks before she arrived?
Well, I went out with the director and some of the personnel for the movie, and we shot for the people who don't know, we shot it in Fiji, and we shot it on an island called Nanuya Levu, which is called Turtle Island, and Turtle Island now is a big resort,
Right.
a 5-star resort or something, or 15-star resort or
Yeah, you're
something.
right. You're right.
But when we were there, and they've never made a movie like this, and they never will ever make a movie like this ever again. But we literally were on a deserted island. There was nothing on that island. As a matter of fact, the crew actually found water on that island. The owner of the island hadn't even had water. We were having water barged to the island until the crew happened to find it. For instance,
Wow.
the waterfall in the movie was all man-made. They built that water. There was no waterfall on that island. They built it there on the island.
Oh my
Um, and
gosh.
we're pumping seawater up and through. That's how the movie magic. But we literally lived in. If you would, I don't know if I have any pictures really available right now because I've got everything in boxes. Sorry, I
Yeah.
apologize. But
No, it's
there's
okay.
there's some great pictures, and if I can find them, I'll send you one or two of them or
I
whatever
would
that
love that.
shows. Yeah, that shows that the crew built. Everybody lived in a tent. That's what I'm trying to say. We all lived in tents. There were no buildings on the island. There was no. Everybody lived in a tent. They built wooden platforms. They put the tents on these big tents on these wooden platforms, and they actually had one of those signs that said Australia this way and Russia that way, US this, LA
Wow.
this way, that kind of a thing. And that's how we lived. We lived in tents for 4.5 months on a deserted island in the middle of the South Pacific.
I mean, that is so, so cool. What?
One jet flew overhead the entire time we were there. We would get mail by seaplane. and food would be barged in, and that was it. Otherwise, we all lived in tents.
Now, did you have time, like, as you're this young guy, did you have time to not only like explore, but like, I don't know, go fishing in the ocean, go snorkel, go do stuff?
Yeah, actually, we did, and it was really fun because there was they wanted, obviously the director wanted us to have, or wanted us to have a full tan, an
Yeah,
all over tan. So
right.
they had designated a beach across the other side of the island as the nude beach, where we could go and we could do a nude beach stuff. So that was always that got to be something that was a normal deal. And then the other thing is that they had these women there that were dolphin trainers, and the dolphin trainers were trying to catch dolphins to train them so that I could ride them in the movie, which you do see me do in the movie, but
Yeah, I
that was
saw that.
something else. Yeah. So I would go out with them every once in a while and do some fishing. I caught a giant wahoo that we brought back, and we all ate, and that was really nice. And then Ron and Valerie Taylor, who did all the underwater footage of the movie, they were the shark experts. They did Blue Water White Death, and they were famous for all of that.
Wow.
And I was a diver, and I think that's one of the reasons why Randall cast me, was because I was really familiar with being underwater, and there was a lot of water, and I was familiar with the water and all that, and comfortable, I should say. And
Mhm.
so I always wanted to see a shark underwater and be. So I went out shark diving with Ron and Valerie, and we did all that kind of fun stuff, and did a lot of diving and learned a lot of things about the reefs and the animals. I mean, so yeah, we had a lot of good time. And then Brooke and I, we would have our time together where we actually would walk down the beach and talk about the movie business. And she had been around even at 14 enough to, and sharp as a whip, that girl.
Yeah.
And she had good advice. And we were making necklaces together, all kinds of fun little things with shells, just because we were really the closest in each other's age on the island.
Mhm. Gosh, so did you become like close buddies more or less really while you were there?
I know where you're going.
No, I'm not. No, I'm really not. I'm really
Yeah, John. Okay.
I'm really serious.
What's happening to your nose, John? Push it back. Yeah, I mean, look, we had a little romance and everything. She was 14, I was 18. She turned 15 on the island.
Right.
And it was just sweet. I mean, it was such a wonderful, innocent experience, and there was no weirdness. There was no strange, creepy, anything that you could think of. It was actually everything that the movie was all about. And it was just really magical. I wish I could give you some dirt, but there just isn't any.
No, I don't expect it. And by the way, I don't expect it from Brooke Shields.
In all honesty, and my nose isn't growing. In all honesty, there was no dirt. It was just it was really beautiful. We had a good time. We're like brother and sister. We're like boyfriend, girlfriend. We had the whole gamut. The whole gamut.
What tell me this, when you were shooting the love scenes for the movie, in reality, what are we talking about? Is it like a director, various, with, everybody sees that like, oh wow, they're so intimate. But in reality, really, who was all around at that time? Like, in basically within vicinity.
Well, you do have a closed set for that, which means that you just have the bare minimum of the people that need to be there. So the director of photography, the director, maybe the first AD, sometimes not. And it's just us doing that sort of thing. Now, she was always covered up, but I wasn't. But by that time, I was like that little kid where the old man was running down the beach going, "Come on and put your clothes back on."
Right.
I still have a hard time putting my clothes on after that movie. It's just the way it goes, Thank you, Randall Kleiser. But yeah, so they really, really made it as comfortable. Randall was very passionate. I'll never forget this. He was incredibly passionate about capturing reality. He really wanted us to fall in love. He really wanted us to have those moments be, and I think exactly sort of how they came out, in the sense that, for instance, that love scene is very innocent in almost a childish way, which we would have been because we really didn't know. And at the same time, was sort of what was actually going on. So there was a lot of that. As a matter of fact, he actually put a picture of Brooke because the first 2 weeks I was living on a boat. So I was living on a boat, a ship off the island, and was shuttled back and forth in a little boat over the reef so I could
Wow.
get to set. And then when I was living on the boat, he had put a picture of Brooke over my bunk so I could see her every night before I went to sleep. I had to look at Brooke Shields. So I'd start falling in love with her.
Oh my gosh, that's wild. I gotta say, the fact that you had not done a film before, and this is your first film, which is crazy, by the way, in itself. But the fact that you were almost naive to, what you were doing and everything else, and then she was, she's 15, she's naive as well. That all plays so well to the film because when it is like that love scene, I remember too, she's like kind of like she almost was like giggling. It's like, you can
Yes,
tell it's not we're
that's what I
trying
was
to
trying to
really
say.
do something. There's
Exactly. Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, that was
Go
exactly what I
ahead.
was trying to say. I'm glad you picked that up because that's exactly what I happened to have saw the movie recently. It just popped
Mhm.
on, and so I started watching it again after all these years. And yeah, I felt the same thing, and I'm happy that it came out that way.
It did. It really did. So were you by the way, speaking of that, did they tell you at the audition, did they say, "Hey, look, just so you know, there's going to be a lot of nudity in this film. Are you comfortable with that?" Or was this something you kind of learned later on?
Well, first of all, the last thing I ever thought I would ever be in a million years is an actor. I just wanted to play baseball. I was an athlete. I wanted sports, the whole thing. And then I ended up having all these knee operations. I had freaking, I don't know if you can see them. I
Oh,
had
wow. Yeah. Yeah.
3 or 4 knee operations in high school. And what's also interesting is you can't see the scar in the movie. And the director didn't notice it until we were on the island, and he was like,
Oh,
"Oh my God, how are we gonna avoid that?" Because they didn't have those surgeries back in the 1800s.
yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
Good point.
yeah. So I really I didn't take anything seriously. I just did it
Mhm.
because it was fun at the time. And I was, what, 16, 17. And when I started that whole thing, and I accidentally got into modeling. And then I ended up modeling all over the place. I ended up doing a like 16 magazine shoot in Puerto Rico with Lisa Ann Falk and Phoebe Cates and these Fitzpatrick's twins and Lori Loughlin. And all
What?
us gang were all there in New York at the time. And all hung out with each other. So it was fun. It was really fun. And then years and years later, we're all in the business, and it's just kind of interesting. But no, I had really no idea until it really started coming down, where I kept getting called back and called back. And then I'll tell you, I hope I have time, and I'm sorry if I'm
You,
talking too much. Just say, Chris.
Chris, you can talk all you want, and we have all the time in the world. I'm enjoying every second.
But the Claudia Black, who ran the children's division, started it with Brooke Shields. There was
Mhm.
the story that went there was I was dared basically to go in there by some friends, and I was born and raised in Rye, New York, and grew up there. And so they took pictures of me, blah blah blah, and I said, okay, and I went in. And long story, I ended up talking with Claudia, and she sent me on the very first, back then they called them go-sees. She said, "Well, here, I've got a go-see for you, JCPenney, if you want to go." And I go, "Yeah, I don't know, let's do it." So I went and I did that. By the time I came back, she goes, "You booked the job." And I went, "Oh, wow." And it was with Lori Loughlin.
Wow.
So um, uh, I did that. And then from there, I ended up modeling a lot. And then that's where a couple of these little TV things. And I thought, oh, this is kind of fun because I'm auditioning for never in a million years. So I went to Columbia Pictures. Here was a Columbia, a big deal for a young 17-year-old kid, oh, I'm going to Columbia. I tell all my buddies that I auditioned for this movie.
Yeah.
So long story longer, I auditioned for like 4 times or 5 times or something. They kept calling me back, and I'm kind of saying to the director, "Aren't you supposed to be shooting this picture by now?" And he auditioned over 4,000 kids from
Oh
my
my.
role all across the United States. Yeah, 4,000 role. 4,000.
Whoa.
So anyway, he said, yeah, we want to see you one more time. And he said, can you bring a blonde curly wig? And I'm thinking, yeah, I got plenty of those in my drawer. What do you mean a blonde curly? Excuse me. Well, mom happened to have something like that. So I'm going into New York City on the train with this dead animal in my hand, which is a hair fall. I'm thinking this is lunacy, but I'm having a good time. And I think that's part of what was good about the movie was because it was my first movie. I didn't know nothing, so I didn't really care. Now I know too much, and I can't get. I suck at auditions, you know. That's it's like crazy, you know. Bring me back. So I always wanted to play baseball. I always wanted to do sports, and because of all the knee surgeries, I wanted to go into sports medicine. My whole family are doctors and science. My sister's a PhD in cellular biology up at Yale University. My brother's an emergency room doctor specializing in ultrasound medicine from Yale, and so I was going to go into sports medicine. And then this whole thing came down to this culmination, and then they were basically saying, "Hey, there is this so and so," but he was the guy that directed Boy in the Plastic Bubble, and he directed Grease and all
Very
this
famous
stuff. So it's a real movie and the whole thing. I didn't think twice about it because I just didn't.
Wow.
And then they called me up, and I was about to get on the train because I was playing softball at the Ford Modeling Agency for Ford, and I had a game and I had to go, and they called up and they said, "Hey, you got the part." And I went, I can't do it. I'm late for a train. I gotta go. I swear to you. And they said, "What do you can't do that. You have to come." So Claudia was the one that had originally sent me out and then talked about that aspect of it. So this is the story. You thought this is the story I wanted to tell you is I'm here in Connecticut, right? That's where I am right now. And I fish every day. And so I go down and I'm down at this place. It's called the Mill. And it's this beautiful red building that used to be a mill. And so I was fishing there, and this car pulls up and this woman says, "Excuse me, do you know where this place is?" And I'm sort of new here because I left California to come here. My kids moved East Coast, you know, my friends, my parents, everybody's all here. So I go to the car and I start talking to her and I say, "Yeah, I don't know what that street is and everything." And she looks at me, she goes, wait a minute. Blue Lagoon. I'm thinking, okay, yeah, well, you know, still getting recognized. That's sweet. That's nice. Thank God.
Yeah.
And I go, yeah. And she goes, "Chris, it's Claudia." And this was Claudia who started the Ford Modeling Agency that I haven't seen in over 40 something years.
Oh my gosh.
And she's stopping asking for directions on this bridge.
Wow.
And I told her, I said, "Claudia, I love you to death." And she goes, "I just remember sending you and Brooke care packages to Fiji." And I went, "Oh my God." And I hadn't seen this woman, John, in literally 40 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
That
You're
is
on a bridge
amazing.
asking for directions in the middle of freaking Connecticut.
Wow, that is so random.
There's something about coming back around. I mean, it was meant for a reason. And I think and I said, "Do you know how many thousands of interviews I have done and mentioned your name?"
Wow, that's an amazing story. That really is.
I still get the chills when I think about seeing her again after all these years. So
She
anyway, that was
changed
cool.
the trajectory of your entire life.
Oh, totally, completely.
I mean, completely.
Completely.
Wow.
It's all her fault.
Yeah. You know, there's one thing that I always found really appealing about you, by the way, is, and maybe that's why, is because I swear to God, anything I've ever seen you in, any interview I've seen you in, whatever, you always come across as a guy that's like, look, I was just a regular guy, you know, I'm like, I'm doing my baseball. I whatever, I'm doing sailing, whatever. And this happened. And so I just, you know, I just rolled with it, but I still have my life. And that's pretty cool. You know, not a lot of people do that.
I appreciate it. And by the way, I showed you my scar, but I am wearing pants. They're shorts, just so everybody knows, because I know you're thinking that.
Oh God, that is really funny. Okay, so did by the way, did you wear a wig the whole shoot of Blue Lagoon then?
No, they curled my hair.
Oh, okay.
And they constantly. And after that movie, after all the perms that I had, my hair just sort of broke up. I looked like Albert Einstein when I was
Oh
done. It was
wow.
just awful.
Oh
It
wow.
was awful. Yeah. No,
That-
the director always, Randall always saw that character as a Greek Adonis, and they all had that curly hair type of thing. So
oh yeah, I could see it. I could see it. Let's go back, by the way. You couple things. You mentioned the dolphins, and I gotta admit, because I saw it recently as well, and I'm like, dang, I mean, he is riding with those dolphins. So were they actually did they go out, they caught the dolphins and then and trained them and then had you do that? I mean, how, where was that on the island?
well, that's what they wanted to do, but the dolphin trainers ended up becoming the chefs on the island because the chef got pissed off with the director or something and fed everybody pork fat or whatever. So he got mad, sent him packing, and the dolphin trainers never caught anything, and they ended up saying, "Oh, well, we'll cook," and so the two dolphin trainers ended up being the cooks on the island for the rest of the shoot, only to go
Oh,
back to everybody was Australian on that crew. I mean, that movie would have never have been the same movie without the Australian crew ever. I mean, not putting down American crew, but they were awesome. They were
yeah.
just awesome, those people. And they went back and they started a movie catering company called Chaos Catering after Blue Lagoon became very successful.
Oh my
But
gosh,
no,
that's
the
crazy.
Dolphins were at Marineland in Palos Verdes or something in California. So we
Uh-huh.
went there and they were trained dolphins that did that. And I did that there.
Okay, was that awesome?
It was so awesome, except for that water was frigid.
Oh wow.
So cold. Oh my God. I jumped in and I had to pretend I was out on that island, and that water was 60 degrees or something. I'm still shivering. But it was super. It was a little freaky too, because these things, man, you in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, that's dolphins, how cool. And then when you're in the water with them, they're big animals. I mean, they could just come up and just bang you so hard, so fast, and
Oh
bite you
yeah.
or whatever.
Well,
So
they're
yeah,
big too. Yeah, like you said, they're not like probably 5 feet. They're probably like 8 foot animals.
they're
From
big animals and
yeah
quick.
to do it.
And
Yeah,
they don't know me. I'm just jumping into. I'm a random person jumping in their tank.
right,
They're used to
right.
trainers, but they don't know, so
Wow, that is so cool. So look, you go into the movie, it's like no one knows you. You had obviously, yes, you had the modeling that, but in general, no one knows Christopher Atkins as a name. You come out of this movie, this thing is a blockbuster, basically. Everybody knows your name, everybody knows you. How did you deal with going from like, I could walk the street to it's like, it's Christopher Atkins, that kind of thing. How did you deal with that?
well, probably I don't know, probably three different ways, I guess. I
Okay.
not well.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not that I shouldn't say it not well. It's just circumstances. It's not so much I think I changed. It's how other people see you in your change due to the circumstances. So for instance,
Mhm.
I I never liked not signing autographs for somebody, even to the point where Brooke and Randall were just saying, "You got to learn to just write love Chris, love Chris," because I would write a little note or something, and they were
Yeah,
saying,
yeah, yeah.
and there's hundreds and hundreds. Like you said, it was nothing in a million years I would have ever. There was not a place on the face of this earth that I could go that I wasn't stopped or I had to have a
Mhm.
bodyguard or something. I mean, exactly as you said, it's hard to imagine or think of how that could actually be like, but it was sometimes actually very, very, very scary. But so the point is I always wanted to be nice. So if I went out and I was with family or friends or everything, it was more difficult for them because they had to sit around and wait, and then I'm getting all this attention, and then some people that see that attention can see it as I'm conceited or something, and I'm
Sure.
trying to be nice, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of exterior sort of
Mhm.
emotions or whatever that goes with that I'm not in control of. Now, the other thing I think that was really special is I just have wonderful family and parents, and they
Right.
kept me grounded in a big way. I'll never forget if I was sitting at a table, for instance, and it was me and a banker and a teacher, so forth and so on, even a doctor, and we're all
Yeah.
sitting at a table, I guarantee you all the questions will be going to me. And that's
Yeah.
just, that's just the way that it was. But I'll never forget my stepfather saying to me, Chris, it's not always all about you. You're allowed to ask questions to other people too. And I went, wow, you know what? And I was young, I was 18 or
Yeah.
19,
Yeah.
but still with all of that, he's so right.
Mhm.
I have to be polite in that. And so it's that kind of influence that I had in my life for that. So yeah, I mean, you'll hear that old saying is if you get enough press, you'll start believing your own press type of thing.
Sure.
And I don't, I don't know if I actually believed it all or so much as I was just surrounded by it constantly, constantly.
Right. Right.
So however I acted or however, I mean, I had to learn to become better in that, like I said, with my stepfather, which was really powerful, which was nice. So I really had a great family that kept me grounded a lot of the times. But then there are just times you can't not, you're just the center of attention. And sometimes
Mhm.
people just
Mhm.
don't like that. And I have to deal with it, and it may make me look like I'm trying to be the center of attention. But if you're the center of attention, you better be the center of attention.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Why
Yeah.
be a mole? So
Were you you mentioned that sometimes it could get dangerous. I've had other people on the show too where they were like at a, I don't know, a mall signing, and suddenly they looked and they did not prepare for these hundreds and hundreds of people blowing the doors open, and they literally had to run for their lives to get back to like the car or the bus, whatever. Did you find yourself in some scary situations?
yeah, I had the exact same situation happen that even overwhelmed the guards at the mall, and the fans were pulling my hair and they ripped my shirt, the whole Beatles thing. I mean,
Oh
literally did
gosh.
that, and I barely got to the car, and they locked me in the car, and they're jumping on the car. Yeah, I had that same situation, and then I had another one in. I had a bad one in uh, Texas, uh, and then another one.
Were you in like Dallas or a major city or like a smaller
I
town?
can't remember exactly. It was yes, probably. And anyway, what ended up happening was the crowd started pushing forward, and I was up on a stage, and the people in the front were getting crushed,
Oh
and they
gosh.
had to cut it and pull me off the stage and tell everybody to back up and stuff. And it was really sad because this one father had to put his daughter up on his shoulders so that she wouldn't get. Yeah, it was pretty.
Oh man. That is just crazy because people think,
New
oh, it's got to be.
Orleans, I think it happened too. There was one in New Orleans. It was where a girl got a high heel through her foot because they were stepping, and yeah, it gets crazy. It can get
Oh
crazy.
my gosh. Well, nobody sends you to school for that either. Nobody trains you and says, Chris, this is what's going to happen once
Well,
you're.
now it's really tough because uh, they get bruised a lot from the walkers when they're coming in the canes. They're like, get out of the way! I want to see him too. Where are my glasses? These are my family. My oxygen's not turned on. What?
Oh my gosh, you're killing me. That is hysterical.
Time flies.
Hey, speaking of which, let's go back to Blue Lagoon for a half sec. Were there any dangerous moments that happened while you were on the shoot? I mean, you're on a remote island for 4.5 months. Anything come up? during that time?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen on a deserted island with all kinds of creatures and things like that.
Yeah, that's what
You're
I
out there
mean. Yeah.
swimming in the off the reefs, and there's sharks and all kinds of things out there, eels or whatever else that people are afraid of,
Right, right.
which I happen to enjoy,
Yeah, I do
but
too.
or learn to enjoy. But one thing I did do that was I got a lot of trouble for was there are these snakes called sea snakes or sea kraits, they're actually called, and they're 10 times more poisonous than a king cobra.
Oh.
And one of the Fijians handed me the sea crate, and I'm holding it and I'm saying, hey, and I'm showing the director. He flipped out. Oh my God. I got in so much trouble. I mean, the you could shut this whole production down and millions of dollars. Oh my God.
Oh
Okay.
my gosh.
Yeah, I was in trouble. So
Was
yeah,
it?
there's some things that can happen.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then but there's things like the stonefish that Brooke actually stepped on. They're out there and that kind of thing. So, but
Wow.
it was a deserted island. So
That is just so freaking cool though that you did that. And the other one, you know what, you mentioned earlier about the modeling, you mentioned Phoebe Cates and Lori Loughlin. Did you stay friends? Well, actually, Lori Loughlin, am I right? Did you date her at one point too?
yeah, well, when we were back in New York, we kind of at the little proms and things like that in high
Mm.
school. I mean, yeah, sort of. We're just more friends.
Have you stayed friends with them though through the years?
Oh, I haven't seen Phoebe in years and years and years and years. But Lori, a mutual friend of ours, passed away not long ago, and so I text her and we text back, and I haven't seen her in a while. But yeah, we're all still basically friends. I know if
I
I saw
got you.
Phoebe, we'd probably laugh about the Puerto Rico trip. Phoebe made me take my clothes off and go into the water at night, saying with the girls saying, "I dare you, I dare you," and like skinny dipping, and come on, we'll do it, you know. And so then I go and do it, and they grab my clothes.
Oh, that's
Thank
a
you,
good
Phoebe.
burn.
Love you too, girl. I'll never forget.
I love it. Did by the way, I noticed too that you had dated like Heather Locklear and Diane Lane. Let me ask you this. Was it once you made it kind of big, was it, and I mean this in the best way, but was it hard to not date somebody that was an actress or somebody that was on the level that you were at? Was it almost like, to date somebody that was like, the normal person you might have met before, you did the movie? Was it almost like, you're too much, like, they can't handle it, or what, or do you find like those were only the people that you're around or other actors?
Well, I mean, that's a very good question. The answer is probably yes.
Hmm.
I was around all of that, and that's who I was exposed to more than anything.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think that's what happens. You just date other actors, other actresses, models, or whatever it is. At the
Mhm.
time, for instance, my wife that I was married to for 20 years, she was a Playmate of the Year.
Hmm.
And that's a whole nother story. And I can tell you it's actually kind of very funny.
Do we have time for it? Do we have time for that story?
Do you? I don't know.
I do. I do. I'd like to hear that story. Sorry. What is that story? Yeah, how did you meet and everything?
Well, first of all, Diane Lane was a very special girl to me, and I really, really, really had some strong feelings for Diane. She was young, and we met at the Academy Awards. And that's another story that Carol Burnett got me in trouble for. So I can tell you that Hollywood story too. And you can look that one up. But so anyway,
I love hearing them all, Chris. I'd love to hear them. Go for it.
Diane was very special, and I saw her once years ago, recently years ago, like 8 years ago or something, at a party, and anyway, So I always had a fond place for Diane.
Honestly, I
Um,
think she's an incredible actress. I've
she's a
always thought
wonderful
that.
actress, and there was a point in time where she was having a really hard time living in Georgia with her mom, and I went out to visit her, and um, I was doing a movie, a TV movie, which I got in trouble for because movie stars didn't do TV back then, and it was called Child Bride of Short Creek. And it was actually, I think, some of my best work. I really enjoyed that movie.
Wow.
But I got Diane in that movie, and
Wow.
she took off, but she was sort of hidden in this. Anyway, so it was good. I was very happy for her. There's a whole nother story about that I don't have time for all that. But which story was I about to say? The Carol Burnett one? Is that what I was
I think you're going to say the Carol Burnett, and then you're going to tell me about your wife.
Oh, the wife. Yes. Okay, let's start there. That was the first one. So I'm doing this movie called The Pirate Movie in Australia, right?
Oh yeah, Kristy McNichol. Yep.
Right. And I'm still in contact with Kristy. I love her to death. I saw her not long ago. We still talk back and forth and everything. I love Kristy. She's awesome.
Yeah, I was a huge fan.
So,
Yeah.
so I'm there for 6 months doing this movie. And I'm living in the old Melbourne hotel, and I come in one day and I buy a Playboy because I wanted to read the articles. And
Yeah, of course.
it had the Playmate of the Year on the cover. And so I'm reading the articles, and there's a fold-out article.
Yes. Yes.
And
Those
it said,
special fold-out articles.
yeah, this is the fold-out article. I was wondering what the football scores were or something. And so anyway, so it had the height, weight, eye color, and then it said favorite movies, and it said Blue Lagoon. I
Oh
went,
my
oh my gosh! I said the Playmate of the Year likes my movie. Why can't I meet a girl like this? Right?
Oh
This is
my
what's
gosh.
going through my head.
Oh my gosh,
4
seriously.
years later, I'm back in Australia shooting another show, and this girl's one of the models in the show. Now, I had no idea it was her until me and the sound guy went to go get the models and tell them that we were all going out to dinner, and this is where we're going, whatever. And she had her modeling book on the bed. And I said, oh, she wasn't ready. And I said, oh, can I look at your book? She goes, yeah, yeah. So I'm flipping through it. And then all of a sudden, there it was.
Oh, how
There
wild.
it was. There, she's the girl that I said that to. And 6 months later, we were married and lasted 20 years.
My gosh, that's amazing,
Isn't that
actually.
weird? Isn't that weird? I
That
even had
is.
an interview for Playboy, and I said, I got a story for you.
I mean, that's a great one, and the other side of that story that I like too is, yes, I realized like you got divorced, but it wasn't like, oh, we got married 6 months later and we were divorced, like a year
Right.
later. You
No.
lasted 20 years. I mean,
20
that's a cool love story. That's neat.
20 years. We had a great time. We got 2 wonderful kids. Now I got 3 great grandsons, not great grandsons, but awesome grandsons.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Not that old yet.
Yeah. I had read, by the way, too, that I mean, if I'm reading too much into this, please let me know. But that your kids, in essence, kind of saved you. I know that you went through a little bit of an alcohol or a drinking problem. And when I was reading and looking at things, I was like, it sounds to me like your kids really like made you go, screw this. I'm done. I'm done drinking.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, when I was 16 and I was teaching sailing here in New York at a place called the American Yacht Club at a day camp during the summer, that was where this whole thing started. One of the mothers of one of the kids took pictures of me, and her family modeled with some modeling guy, and she said, oh, you should do it, you should do it. And I'm like, I don't want to model. And the next thing I know is she sent me in without me really knowing, and
Wow.
the whole thing springboarded from there.
Wow.
But when I was 16, from that job, I would put $1 away for someday when I had kids. And I don't know why, I just always wanted to have kids.
Wow.
And so when I did have the kids, and I just love my children to death, and we had a great time, when I went through my struggle at that time, like you said, yeah, it's all true. One of the things was, look, I don't want to be I'd rather be a dad than a drunk. And
Hmm.
it really helped me to stay stopped.
Hmm.
And so I'm 36 years sober now,
Hi,
and
congrats.
stayed that way. Thank you. But one of the things is, once they grew up and they moved out, and the wife was gone, and here I am, I'm thinking, well, maybe I can start it up again. And then the little rat bastards went and had kids on their own. And so now I got to go, well, I don't want the grandkids to see grandpa drunk. I'm just kidding.
No, I
So,
seriously, I think that is super cool. I have two sons myself, and I did not, I've been fortunate. I have not had a drinking problem, but I get that wholeheartedly, and that's just super cool, you
yeah,
know.
I tell everybody, I said, the only reason why I had kids was for my own personal entertainment. They were they were awesome, even to this day. My daughter's sending me pictures of little bugs on her shoulder, and her 4-year-old son, he's got the crazy sense of humor that we all have, and now he's trying to scare mom by putting these plastic bugs on her
Oh
shoulder.
God,
Love that kid.
love that kid. You're darn right. Those are the
He's got
best.
it right.
Oh yeah, the little rubber worms. Anyway, there's a
Yeah.
lot of things. Okay, so let's go back. The pirate movie. You mentioned Kristy McNichol, who, like I said, I admired her so much when I was younger. What was that shoot like for the pirate movie? Because obviously that was another big one that you were involved with.
Well, it's really funny because it was an underground hit. It wasn't a box office hit, but
Hmm.
man, I can't tell you, and it's still to this day surprises the heck out of me. A whole generation just watched that obsessively over and over and over. I mean, it's very flattering, and I'm super, super happy that it went that way. But it turned into a cult movie, and it was really
Big
interesting.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had no idea, but it did.
Now, did
Yeah,
you?
we were there.
Yeah, tell me about it first, and then I got a question about that. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So we were there filming this for 6 months in Australia. I had to take fencing lessons, had to take
Wow.
dancing lessons. And if you notice in the film, I'm always in the back because I suck. So the director would always kind of, yeah, why don't you dance back there? I know you're the star. Don't worry about it.
Oh, funny. Too funny.
So no, we had a blast, and it was really a lot of fun. I mean, it was a lot of fun, and that movie and Blue Lagoon, I think, are the two movies out of 100 television shows and movies that I've done that I still keep in contact with those people. And ironically, they're Australian again. So
Wow, is that cool?
Australia's kind of come into being as my second home away from home.
Hmm.
I go there constantly, and I'm actually got 2 projects that I'm working on over there right now. So we'll see how that goes. That'd be great.
Yeah, I know. Actually, Chris, Australia is very special to me too. My best friend lives over there, and I've spent a lot of time over there actually, and I know what you're saying. They're just good people, and a lot of them could give a rip who you are or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just you are who you are.
Yeah.
I love that about them.
That's the
Um,
best.
so I got a question. You had that what is it? How can I live without her? The song, How Can I Live Without Her? Had you like that, by the way, just for people that are out there that don't know, this was on the Billboard charts. I mean, I mean, this is no small little deal. Had you sang before?
No, and I never sang again. So
Wow.
no, I actually have a gold album. I have a gold album in the other room that I got from Australia for that song. Yeah, it went to 45 or something. It hit the
Wow.
charts. Yeah, it was very exciting. But what's special to me is the little boxes that you tick off in a career.
Yeah.
So how fortunate am I of millions of people that go to Hollywood that want to be a movie star? How
Yeah.
fortunate am I to have been lucky enough to have gotten that brass ring, as they say, and experienced starring in a hit movie? That's a 1,000,000 to 1 shot, and I'm very fortunate and very grateful that.
Oh, big time. And then on top of it, you have a hit song. I mean, you don't even sing,
No.
and you've got a hit song. I mean,
All I
that's
say
huge.
to people is thank God for machines that can make a dog sing.
Wow. That's really incredible. Now let's take another diversion there. The other one that I noticed is Dallas, and I had Patrick Duffy on the show, and hopefully we'll have Linda Graham. We'll see. We're working on that, but he spoke so highly of his cast and just the camaraderie and all of that. What was your favorite like offset moments? You were on for a season, I know, of the show. What were some of your favorite offset memories of that season?
Well, one of my favorite memories, and Linda Gray is just one of the greatest all-time human beings on the planet, and I just love that woman to death. As a matter of fact, I'm having the opportunity. I'm going to LA on Sunday for a week to shoot a movie that is called Ladies of the '80s Christmas Special or something, or Christmas something, and it's a movie, and it's very funny because they have me, and my character's name is Peter, and I'm married to Linda, which is really funny, and she's having an affair on me.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical because you were
Yeah.
Peter Richards on Dallas, and then
I was having an affair on JR. So it's very funny. It's very funny. And she's just the best. So I'll tell you a great Linda Gray story. So of course, Linda and I were the very first cougar sort of thing. I mean, we were magazine covers, we were everything, and it was big. She was the first cougar. So I got in so much trouble constantly because I was the younger guy. I'll never forget, I was in Bahamas and I was walking through a casino, and this woman staring at me like this comes walking straight up to me. And she says, "You're too young for her." Okay, not my problem. I'm sorry. So we had our very first kiss. It was the big thing in the movie and the whole deal, and was out on this pond, out on this dock, and this was it. This was the push over into, we're going to do this now. I mean, it was the big older woman, younger guy moment. Right?
Yeah.
And everybody's there. I mean, everybody's standing there, and they're all watching and everything, and this, which is usually not so normal. Everybody goes home or whatever. They're all standing there. And we do this kiss, and the director says action, and we do the kiss and the whole thing, and we break apart. And Linda looks at me and she says, "So how was it?" And I'm thinking, well, that's kind of a weird question to ask. I mean, what am I going to say? It was awful. I mean, I said, no, it was, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, my lips go completely numb, and everybody's laughing hysterically. And Linda had put that stuff that the dentists use on your gums.
Oh, the Novocaine stuff?
Yeah, rubbed it all over her lips. So when this guy, I'm probably like this. They're hysterical. And that's the way they were on that set. They were all old hippies. They were all teasing each other constantly. It was all, even Larry. I mean, Larry was hysterical. When I walked in, and I only did one season because I was supposed to do a play on Broadway with Gina Lollobrigida, and then the producer died, so we were asked to do it. And it was another time that I got in trouble for doing TV, because still I was a movie star, seen as a movie star.
Right.
Boy, that was a whole nother situation. But when I walked in, I had all these clothes for a photo session and the whole thing to do for Dallas. And I walked into the studio, the sound stage, and Larry was coming down the hall, and he sees me. He says, "Hey, welcome to the cast." And he grabs this, must be 50 pounds worth of jackets and clothes and all this, grabs it from, "Let me take that from you." And he walks me into this dressing room,
Wow.
hangs my clothes up, welcomes me like that. I couldn't believe it. I said, that was Larry Hagman. Larry Hagman just carried my clothes for me. I mean, I'm a kid, and he's being nice to me. It blew me away. It just blew me. But that's,
wow, that is seriously amazing.
That's a true story. He was an awesome guy.
Wow. Yeah, Patrick Duffy always in the interview, and he said it multiple times. He said, he was my best friend, and he always will be. Yeah. You know, so that says a lot. God, that's so cool that you were welcome like that to that group.
They were all crazy.
Wow. And you just kind of alluded to that, but it's true. At that time, it was a big deal. I mean, to go from movies to TV, I mean, it was almost like, hey, what are you doing, buddy? Like that kind of thing. Whereas now they take it for granted, like it's, no big deal.
Well,
Was
everybody's
that
doing commercials now.
right? Was
Yeah.
that discussed at the time, like between you and like your agent? Was it like, wait a minute, should we be doing this?
I really didn't know the difference. I just followed what I felt
Wow.
that my manager, and that's why you have them
Hmm.
come up with, and it's their job is to manage your career. So I mean, what do I know? I wanted to play baseball.
God,
so
that's so cool.
so I
Not only
follow
that,
that,
Dallas
but
is the
I
biggest
remember
show in
the
the world.
yeah, I remember the flack from it. So
Yeah. Well, if you're gonna pick one though, I mean, you picked the show, the iconic everything.
oh, it was fun. It was really fun.
Wow, wow. And then suddenly Susan, I gotta go to that one. Okay. I've seen that scene. I remember when you were on. How long had it been since you had seen Brooke when you actually shot the episode?
It'd been a while. I would see her at parties now and then in LA or events. But between then and that time, I don't think I had seen her for a number of years. But I
Mm.
just remember that when I would see her, I would always be with my wife and kids and everything. And I'll never forget. And I told her this that she was always so gracious to my children, and I always thought, I hope she gets a chance to be a mom because I think she's going to be an amazing mother.
Yeah.
And she's Brooke Shields, and that's another thing that's really tough is why are they dating you? It's in your head. Are they dating you because you're a movie star? Are they dating you because you're actually somebody that they want to be with?
Yeah, good point.
That's a really tough place.
Wow. Did you feel that? By the way, I mean this the best way, but did you feel that when with your wife, or was it the reverse because you wanted to date her? So then it was like, okay, then it's coming from, I feel like we're in more of a genuine place.
No, it was both. I dated her because she was a playmate. She dated me because I was an actor.
Well, that kills that
Yeah,
whole thing.
yeah. And then it went on for 20 years.
I love it. I love it. So when you did see Brooke and you get on the set and whatever, did it feel like all this time had passed, or were you the two of you kind of do you have that connection? Like you just, after you've been through what you were through on Blue Lagoon.
Well, she was a different person at that point in time. She was a totally different. She was a grown up now,
Hmm.
and so when we spent all that time, she was 15 years old. I was just turning 18 or just turned 18, and so and then saw her in between, and so now she was on the show, and she was one of the main people of the show.
Yeah, it's her show.
For that, she was always very nice to me and all that. So it was just different. It was just, you just grow up and you just become different.
Wow.
I don't know how to explain. It wasn't bad or anything. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
explain what you were asking, and it's hard. So it's just, but she
Well,
was,
it's just kind of, sometimes when you actually go
it
to shoot
wasn't,
the scene.
yeah, it wasn't roses and rainbows because it
Right.
was business.
Yeah. Right. Right. I gotcha.
I mean,
One other one that I took note of in your career was Listen to Me, the film Listen to Me.
yeah.
And you had quite
Sorry, I have a buddy just walked in.
that's okay. That's all right. We all have lives going on.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
okay.
yeah. No, it's okay.
So in the film Listen to Me, though, I mean, you're with Kirk Cameron, Roy Schneider, and Jami Gertz. Um, I'd like to know what each of them was like, but I was really intrigued by Roy Schneider. What was he like when the cameras weren't rolling?
Yeah, that's such a good question because he was really cool. He was such a nice guy, and I used to have good conversations with him and things. And I asked him one day, I'll never forget because I'm just thinking about this the other day,
Yeah.
and because I'm about to direct something, and I remember asking him. I said, "Did you ever want to direct?"
Yeah.
Because I would always think about it even back then. And he goes, "Hell no." and I was like, "Really?" He says, "Yeah, no,
Wow.
I don't want that responsibility, that kind of a thing. So it was really interesting because now that I'm sort of going through it, there's so many moving parts that
Yeah.
I realized I was thinking about that he said that to me and understand more why, because I, as an actor, have that one moving part.
Yeah, right, right. As an actor, he's a very intense actor. Like watching him on screen, you always felt like almost like a stress level or I don't know, it's like a force going on there or something. What was he like offset?
Well, he's like the Michael Jackson kind of thing. He he plays that role because that's the role that he can play the best. So
Mhm.
that everybody has their little niche. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, but when he's offset, he's like everybody else, and that's one of the things that's always been fascinating to me too, because some people you do meet and they're kind of full of themselves. I'm sorry to
Mhm.
say that, but that's just the truth of the matter.
It's fact. Yeah.
And some people are incredibly nice. But the one thing I found about actors are most of them are super intelligent. I mean,
Mhm.
a lot of actors are really, really intelligent and they have a good finger on the pulse of things. So, but he was just a really nice, humble guy.
Wow. And how about Kirk Cameron? What was that like? Because he would have been just coming off of like his fame as well, really, as a young guy.
Yeah, Kirk Cameron was like a kid and almost to the point of annoying. But he wasn't, because now I'm doing it and I'm annoying. But he used to do this thing with his fingers. It would sound like a bug in your ear. And so he'd come up behind you when you're in the middle of rehearsing or something, and do this thing in your ear, make you jump. Like, Kirk, come on, man. He was good. He was all right.
All right, I'll give and Jami Gertz, obviously Lost Boys, Less Than Zero. I mean, pretty top movies. What was she like to work with?
She was a little bit tougher. She was a little bit tougher. I'm going to be honest there. She was a
Yeah.
little bit. I'll go there and stay there. I mean, a nice girl. I mean, really, a beautiful girl.
Yeah.
But she was just a little bit tough.
Yeah, tougher actress. I got you. Well, hey,
and
listen.
On that movie,
yeah.
I got done one day early, and my buddies called me up and said, "Hey, man, are you going to make it to the game?" Because I had a softball game, and I don't like playing softball. I always like playing baseball. I was in the old man baseball, the MSBL in LA, and all that.
Yeah.
So I was on this softball team too, and it was sort of on the way home. I said, "Yeah, I'll make it." So I get on. I get to the game right after work shooting that day, and I get to the game. I get a hit. I'm on first base. It's bunting and stealing. I lead off. The catcher tries to throw me out, and it was the first time in my life that I wasn't Superman, because I was always an athlete, and for whatever reason, my head said back, go back to the base.
Yeah.
My legs said, well, wait a second, and I ended up diving back to the base. The guy was backing up because the ball was bouncing off the ground, so I had to go around him. But I dove up instead of straight down. For some reason, I went up, and I came down on my arm, trying to touch the base in a cockeyed way to avoid the first baseman.
Oh no!
And I totally dislocated my shoulder, and it was sticking right out of the front.
Oh, come on!
And the ball, swear to God, the ball goes out of the outfield, and they're all going, run, and I'm going.
Wow.
They came out, and the whole team's yanking on my arm, and
geez.
And finally, one of the ball players, Dennis, grabs my arm, and he's pulling, and it pops it back in.
Oh, come on.
Then I go to the emergency room and the whole thing. And of course, the doctor there goes, it's very dangerous to put your own shoulder in because there's a nerve. And if you hit the nerve, you can lose it.
Come on.
It just feels a hell of a lot better now. And he says, next time, just come to us. Right. So I couldn't drive, and I'm in a sling, and I'm all bruised, and I couldn't drive. And do you know what happened? The producers on that freaking movie accused me of pretending that this all happened so that I could get a ride to set because I wasn't starring in the movie or something and I needed a driver.
You have to be kidding me.
I swear to God, I was absolutely appalled and shocked that they would actually say that or insinuate that. Like I'm one of these star guys. I mean,
oh, is that weird?
So yeah, that was really weird. So if you see the very end where I have to dance with her at the end,
yeah,
I'm having a rough time, and I just was able to get out of the sling and the whole thing, but trying to dance with her, and that was a really tough moment.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna go rewatch it seriously because I want to see that. That is wild.
Yeah, and you'll see I'm holding my arm a lot different throughout the rest of the movie, and I mean, yeah, you should be able to see it. And then I dislocated it a couple of times after that, one diving for a baseball and all this kind of. As a matter of fact, my kid was like 4 or 5, and I dislocated it, and I told him he had to drive me home. So I was steering and he was doing all the shifting.
Oh, come on.
He got me all the way, got me home. But anyway, I ended up having like 3 screws in that shoulder. So I got, you have no idea. I've got plates in my back, an artificial disc in my back because I just completely wore that out.
Wow.
Knee operations. I got pins in my shoulder. I've got, you just name it. I'm always hurting myself.
Yeah, it sounds like you stayed with, going all the way back to Blue Lagoon when you wanted to get to that game or that practice. You're still doing it. Yeah. I love you are still a big kid. You have got that energy, and that is so awesome. Don't ever lose that. And I'm really happy for you with the projects that you have coming up and all of that. And it feels like there's always something in the hopper going on with you. So that's awesome. So,
all right. Before you go,
sure.
Do you want to hear the Academy Award story?
I do.
Okay, Carol Burnett. There's a lot of the younger audience probably has no idea who Carol Burnett is, but she was the Lucille Ball of her time, right?
The greatest. Yeah.
And so Kristy and I were giving the award for best sound. So we were presenting and giving the award for best sound back in 1982.
Wow.
And Raiders of the Lost Ark with the big ball.
Yeah.
Was what they showed. That's what won, was Raiders of the Lost Ark. So you can look this up. Anyway, Carol Burnett's daughter wanted to go to the Academy Awards with me, Carrie Hamilton, who ended up dying, unfortunately, of the brain tumor. And of course I said, yeah, that would be wonderful. And so during rehearsals, I'm sitting next to Chevy Chase and we're talking, and he wanted to know what I was presenting. And I said, best sound. He goes, oh, it would be really funny if you went and the nominees are. I went, oh yeah, okay, So I go to Carol Burnett's house, and I'm sitting there waiting for them as they're getting dressed and everything, and we're talking, and I tell her what Chevy had said. She goes, that's so funny. You've got to do that. That's so funny. The whole way to the Academy Awards, I'm in the car, and the nominee sound are, right?
Yeah, it's like perfect.
I get up in front of the entire freaking world and I do that. And it goes right over everybody's head, except for Carol Burnett, who's sitting there like this. I'm like, everybody knows me of running down a beach in a diaper. They don't know me as a comedian.
Oh my God.
So I just kept going like nothing ever happened, and the whole thing. And I get off stage, and Joe Hamilton, who was working backstage, and Carol's husband comes up to me and says, you did that so well. Everybody was running around back here thinking there was a real sound problem. I'm like, oh my God, this is me, right? I'm always in trouble.
Oh, that is so funny. I will look that up.
Look it up. 1982. Look it up. Yeah.
Academy Awards. Okay. That's funny. Oh, what a freaking great one. Well, maybe Chevy was laughing too,
I've never seen him since, but golly, if I ever see him.
Oh my
You don't
God.
remember, but I do.
Exactly. It'd be like, I never said that. No. Oh my gosh. Well, listen, thank you. Thanks for everything. Thanks for your openness and your honesty. And I've just had a ball with you. So
Thank you. It's fun.
yeah, I appreciate you very much. And yeah, just wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank you, John. You're a great guy, and thank you for asking me. I really appreciate it.
You got it.
I hope I see you again after I direct.
Oh, you will see me again after you
Okay,
direct. I'll
good.
be watching for it. All right.
Okay, good.
See ya.
Thank you.
Hey, don't forget to hit the subscribe button in the corner of the video. And if you like the video, please hit the like button as well. And while you're here, take a look at some of the other great interviews from anybody from Butch Patrick to Judy Norton. All fantastic. Have a great one.